What's up, guys, and welcome to episode 3 of Brand Up Your Business podcast. I'm your host, Matt Jackson, and I brought on a special guest, Thomas. We go back a few years, kind of from the beginning of our entrepreneurial journey together. We were in like mastermind groups and networking groups and kind of known each other through different parts of the process of our businesses. And now Thomas he's kind of dabbled on a lot of things, and now he's kind of doing like contractor work. And you wanna kick it off?
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Matt. I appreciate the opportunity to spread my message, talk a little bit about business and life on your podcast. So I appreciate you having me. So my story goes back. I don't know. I've been in business now, probably about 10 years. Been working for myself for about 6 years, working for myself full time about 6 years. Let's see, it started, I really got interested when I first started getting into interested in owning a business. I would say I had zero interest in owning a business up until, through high school, and like no interest in high school. I was forced to go to college. Basically, my parents said that's the only way to be successful in life, is to get a 4-year degree and get a good, safe job. It's the only way to be successful. So I went to college for about a year and hated every second of it. I'm not the type of person to enjoy college, learning that way. So it didn't suit me one bit. And because I hated it, I looked for other outlets in college that, were not so great. And stuff like that. So I went down that path for a little bit, and ended up leaving college after about a year and started working for a drilling and construction company. We were doing environmental drilling water wells, stuff like that. It was a lot of like brute force labor work. But even though it was really difficult work, like I finally just I enjoyed it. It was the first time that I was like, you know what, this is great. I'm out here in the middle of winter drilling with water. We're slinging water everywhere, covered in mud. But I love this a whole lot more than I love being in college.
No doubt.
So I'm one of those people that, I do better just working. And how my entrepreneurial journey started was one of the drillers I was working for. I was a rig hand underneath this driller. He was a business owner. He was a landscaping company. And he would just talk to me about business and stuff like that, his landscaping company that he did on the side and he used to do full time. And it really opened my eyes to entrepreneurship. So I started listening to podcasts, and the first one I listened to was Bigger Pockets podcast, which is a real estate podcast. And I was open to the idea of real estate. My dad had some rentals when I was growing up. They were trash. They really were. He didn't have them for very long. He never had good success with them. We worked on houses growing up with my dad. I worked on houses growing up with my dad. The landlord that I was renting from is a family friend, and he had some success in rentals. So that's kind of how I came into like Bigger Pockets and maybe, rental properties, and for the next, that's probably when I was like, I want to say when I was 20, I listened to a podcast from Bigger Pockets. And this is a very simple line in the podcast. But I remember literally sitting in the bathroom. I think I was sitting on the toilet, listening to this podcast. And I remember this line where he said, "You can design your life any way you want it."
Nice.
And it's a simple line. It's, a simple statement, but to me, it was just like a aha moment. Like no one ever told me that you could do that.
Right.
You couldn't design your life. You went to school and you got a good job, whatever the job that came your way that paid the bills.
Yep.
And then you listened to your boss and you worked your way up the ladder, but you didn't actually get to design your life exactly. If you wanted to go on vacation half the year, you couldn't,
Exactly.
You can't design Um, so anyway, this guy talking on the podcast said you can design your life any way you want. And he was in the middle of doing that through real estate.
Nice.
And that got me really involved into learning about real estate. And I went from working in construction to driving truck. And I drove cross country for a while, which was really good money. It was great because it was really good. I was young. I was like 21, 22 years old, making over six figures.
Yeah. That beats most college kids.
Yeah. And I don't think I listened to the radio for almost probably 8 months. All I was doing was listening to podcasts and listening to books about real estate.
That's awesome.
Teaching myself how to, be a landlord, how to value real estate. And, when I was 24, I want to say when I was 24, either 24 or 25 years old, that same driller that first talked to me about entrepreneurship said to me, he said, we should buy a property together. He said, because you're interested in real estate, I'm interested in real estate. We should do it. And we were good friends. Yeah. We should buy a property together. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. Yeah. And for the next probably 8 to 9 months, we just walked properties. Like I remember every single Saturday going and walking properties. We were walking foreclosures. That was still, let's see, back in, I was 24 because back in 2018, there's a fair amount of foreclosures, which actually was from the 2008 bubble.
Nice.
There were still foreclosures hitting the market, finally coming up for sale in 2018 from the 2008 bubble.
Wow.
So we were walking for probably 2 to 3 foreclosure properties every single Saturday, running the numbers on every single one of them. Does this work for a rental? Does this work for a flip? Putting in offers. And we were very new to it. So our offers probably weren't the best. In my opinion, they were a little too conservative.
Right.
But after 8 months, we finally found a property that was not a foreclosure. It was an off-market deal, an 8-unit property. Where the numbers worked on it.
Yeah.
So we put in an offer, negotiated a little bit, and we bought an 8-unit rental property. Between my partner and I, we put 20% down, and the bank financed the rest. I worked with a local bank on that, which I highly recommend for real estate investors, finding a good local bank. Yeah. And I wasn't done at that point. I was young and call it dumb, but I was like, you know what, we could do more. I was getting into the mindset of empire building, where I think this is where I started to get away from things. I recently had a reset. Yeah. I started getting into empire building and focusing less on designing the life you want, designing life the way you want it. So 6 months after we bought the 8-unit, I bought an 11-unit as well. Nice. So in 1 year, went from zero to 19 units.
There you go.
And I was self-managing all of them, which was a huge reality check coming from, I'll say slightly sheltered, a very small rural town, didn't get out a whole lot, to managing 19 units with, they weren't in the ghetto, but they were in some rough locations.
Yeah. I imagine if you said they're going like more foreclosure or like more affordable, you're not buying like...
the 11 unit was definitely like low income.
Yeah.
The 8-unit it wasn't low income, but it also wasn't like grade A apartments.
Yeah.
It wasn't A+. But that was completely educational for me. It was great. I learned so much about not just dealing with like I knew how to deal with the properties. I could growing up with my dad, I could fix the properties. That was the easy part.
Yeah.
Figuring out, okay, what to do when this breaks, or this is going to break soon, so plan for that. Like that was the easy part of rental property investing for me. The hard part was managing the properties.
Yeah.
I know there's plenty of property management companies out there, but and most real estate investors will agree with me when I say that. Most property management companies suck. Like they suck a lot.
I've noticed that from just dealing with them from pressure washing.
Yeah, exactly. So have I. Yeah, and so anyway, what my biggest learning curve was the people aspect of it, dealing with the people.
Yeah.
Problem solving with people, even though technically it wasn't really my job to problem solve. As a landlord and owner, I was there in charge of the building.
Yeah.
In collecting rent. I wasn't in charge of the people. And man, I'd be getting, my wife always tells me I should write a book. I'm sure every other real estate investor could write a book.
You definitely have a lot of lessons and stories.
Yeah. Like one that sticks out to me that, we had to diffuse was, lady from upstairs at the 8 unit called me saying, Mark from downstairs called me and my daughter fat cows. And I'm like, oh man, I'm really sorry to hear that. That's not nice. That's not a nice thing to say. I'll have to say something to Mark, that's not. And then she interrupts me and she says, well, I got tired of it. So I went upstairs, grabbed a knife, and then went downstairs and pulled a knife on him.
Oh gosh.
I was like, oh, okay.
We escalated this situation.
Escalated it a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that wasn't the right idea either. And she's like, yeah, well, now the police are on the way. So I'm getting out of here. Okay. I guess this is where we're at.
Yeah.
And I was out plowing snow. It was in the middle of winter. We were in the middle of a huge snowstorm too. We were getting like 1 to 2 inches an hour.
Dang.
And next thing you know, I get another phone call. Hey, the cops are here. They're banging on her door. They're going to bust down the door if she doesn't come and answer the door. I was like, well, don't let the cops bust down my door.
Don't break my door, please.
I don't want to replace the door. I'll be there in like 15 minutes. I have my keys on me. I'll open the door.
Yeah, that's funny.
So I get there, and next thing you know, she comes. She wasn't even there. After I pull into the property, which we didn't plow the property yet. We always plow our property last. So the lot wasn't plowed. She comes driving into the lot, goes sideways in her little Volkswagen Bug. I mean, there's now 6 to 8 inches of snow on the ground. She's out driving this Volkswagen Bug. Gets sideways, gets stuck on the hill, and she steps out. Man, she is not sober in the least.
I bet.
There's cops beside me. I'm just like, oh man, this is one for the books here. Yeah. Turns out her daughter was in the apartment, and when the cops were knocking on the door, her daughter flushed a whole bunch of drugs down the toilet.
Nice.
Which then backed up most of the septic in most of the sewers in the whole 8 unit. Nice. Because it blocked the main line going out to the city sewer line. Nice. So then we had to call a local plumbing company to come out in the middle of a snowstorm and roto-root the whole way down to the sewer line, like 130 feet. It was huge. Yeah, that's tons of fun. That's a fun story I love to tell, but I learned a whole lot from it. And while working at the rentals, I was talking to my business partner. We were redoing a kitchen, and I was like, dude, I got to make more money. Cause I started driving truck for myself rather than driving for a company. Mm-hmm. So I had my computer built, and man, it wasn't paying the bills. I quickly found out that's not an industry that you make a whole lot of money in. Like the owner operator side of it, as opposed to driving for a company? Especially when you're like leasing on to another company. So you own the truck and you lease onto a company and they give you the loads. I see. I was like, I was like, dude, I'm not making enough money here. I got to figure out something to do.
Right.
And he nonchalantly said to me, you should look into pressure washing. Those guys make dumb amounts of money.
That's true.
I was like, yeah, I love dumb amounts of money. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll look into it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's literally how I got into pressure washing.
Yeah, there you go.
And then I'll keep this short here. But as we got into pressure washing, that I still had the focus on like empire building instead of designing the life that you wanted. Like my original focus was designing the life that you wanted.
Yes.
And that's where it kind of got hazy. I tried to scale too fast in my own pressure washing business, then thought it was better to buy a business to scale even faster. So took on debt to buy a business. It wasn't a good buy, unfortunately. I lost a lot of money in that, unfortunately. We sold our rentals. My partner and I sold our rentals. We were both too busy in our own businesses.
Yeah.
And when you buy properties that are not turnkey, so they're not perfectly fixed up with perfect tenants in it. When you buy properties that are not turnkey, it is management intensive. So you need to have the time to focus on it, to either fix up the house or place new tenants. But you need to have the time to focus on it. It's not, like I said, if you want to buy real estate and it be truly passive, if that's possible, you got to be buying turnkey properties. And we weren't. We wanted properties that we could value add and, increase the value, increase our equity in the property, stuff like that.
I guess like when you see online, everybody pushes this like, oh, just leverage other people's money, get into real estate, and you have passive income for life, and you're having tenants pay off your mortgage. So you're saying there's a little bit more to that than what they say.
Yeah. It's not as picture perfect as that paints it.
Yeah.
So we ended up selling our properties because neither one of us had the time to put towards it. We did sell at the peak of COVID, so we made some money, luckily. We didn't make as much money as we could have. I will say that because, again, we didn't have the time. We didn't have the amount of time to put in these properties that they needed. So they weren't perfectly, even though we fixed them up a little bit, they were still a work in progress. They weren't perfectly fixed up. They didn't have perfect tenants in it. So we didn't get top dollar for our properties, but we did make some money that I was happy with. And I was still focused on empire building, and it took a major reset in my life to like realize, hey, what am I doing here?
Yes.
And that major reset was, extreme business failures with the business that I bought and stuff like that. And it spiraled into my personal life. Marriage was harder, raising kids was harder.
Yeah, it's a big distraction, I assume.
Yeah. And I was like, man, this isn't what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So that huge reset really made me think. I'm like, okay, what do I want out of business? What do I want out of business? And it came to be is I want to be an entrepreneur because I want to control my life. And go back to that original line of the podcast, you can design your life however you want to.
That's awesome.
So I like, okay, well, what can I do? Well, I've always worked on houses. I've always been, whether it be houses with my dad's friends, being a handyman when I was in my early 20s, just for side money. I said, let's try being a handyman, being a home improvement contractor. So I went back to that, this time with the focus of designing the life how I wanted it to be. And we have definitely found a lot more success with that. In the past, probably year and a half, plenty of ups and downs as always in business.
Yeah.
But I'm I'm enjoying it a whole lot more. I'm enjoying the business a whole lot more.
I think too. I like how you're saying empire building, because that seems like, why else do you get in business to like build an empire and like put all this money on the books and have like, oh, look at me, look at all this. And then it's like, that's not the reality for majority of us.
Yeah.
Unless you're a sociopath, most of us don't want that.
Yeah.
So like there's more to life than that. So like you're able to design like a business or way to make money around your life and provide yourself with freedom. It's funny, I had Bob on, who we both know, and he a lot of his story too is similar to you and me, where it's like, hey, we don't want to beat our dicks and say, look how big our businesses are. Like, look how much nonsense, and look at us on social media. We're more trying to design our lives in the way that we want and create our own freedom. So,
and I've noticed too, as I've talked to more business owners and opened up and been honest with more business owners, that like those people that are empire building, it's a house of cards. 90% of the time, it is a house of cards. Yes. And I found that a lot of times the business owners that are doing that, they're not the main breadwinner in the family.
Yes.
Or if they are, they have family money to fall back on, or that supplements their lifestyle and their basically their life.
Yeah. And or what's their relationship with their family? That's a big thing too.
Yeah. Yeah. And the more I talk about that and talk with business owners, and, you know, they open up to me, or, you know, it's just, wow, it's the trend that the people who are trying to do empire building are not as well off as they make it seem, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And that was another realization for me. Like, okay, you should be focusing more on your building the life the way you want it to look, rather than like that really solidified me. Like, I am happier than most of these guys right now, and I'm making more money than most of these guys right now. Even though I'm not making a whole lot of money, I'm still making more. Yeah. And so I would say a couple of things that I found out from that, a couple takeaways for that, you know, I would love to tell new business owners would be, build it slow. Yeah. That's not the sexy way to put it. But if you're the main breadwinner, if people depend on you for an income, you know, or if you don't come from expensive, if you don't come from a very rich family, it's harder for you to take that risk. So build it slow, and watch debt. I know this is another one where business owners and gurus will tell you, like you just said, take on debt, leverage other people's money, make it work. We figured out when we looked at it, you know, the most we were ever in debt with our rentals and our business ownerships from buying a business, you know, the most we were ever in debt was $900,000. Yeah. And the year that we were in $900,000 worth of debt, I made hardly any money. Any.
And there's probably a ton of stress with that over your head.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I just rough figures, you know, it was over $10,000 a month, over $10,000 a month going out in just debt payoff, you know?
Yeah. That's insane.
So we figured that I make more money when I'm not in debt.
You probably have the peace of mind as well.
do. So I'm one, I know I was listening to Bob. I was listening to your and Bob's podcast, and I know Bob said something about Dave Ramsey. So I chuckled to myself because I remember I wanted to say this. I said, I'm more of a Dave Ramsey fan now that I'm not an empire builder. Yeah. Because my life is less stressful now that, you know, we don't use a whole lot of debt, if any.
Yeah. You seem a lot more calm and chill this go around than like a year or so ago. Last time we hung out in Greenville.
Yeah. So
it's like, hey, there's a lot of growth that has occurred in the meantime as you've like detoxed yourself from this empire building mindset that I think entrepreneurs can be like really susceptible to catching.
Yeah. Sucked into. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I will say I'm not opposed to debt,
Yeah.
but the only debt that is, and this is my conclusion. The only debt that is good debt is debt that other people pay for. So that's like rental properties and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. You're not saying take out a loan and say my business is going to cash flow X and Y. And then if it doesn't, or like the economy shifts or you lose an account, you're
Mhm.
on the hook for all that stuff.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say save up the money for equipment if you can't figure out a way to save up $10,000 to $15,000 for some equipment, whether it be in pressure washing or in the home improvement realm like I'm in. If you
Yeah.
can't figure out how to save up $10,000 to $15,000 for equipment, then you are either A, mismanaging your money, or B, bidding your jobs incorrectly.
Yeah.
Fix both of those first before you take on debt.
I would say
Because if
that's
you
also a
don't fix
good
those,
lesson. Yeah.
yeah, if you don't fix both of those before you take on debt, debt will not be your friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I feel like that self-control muscle some people don't have, because you open up a business account, an American Express card, they'll say, yeah, if you just cash flow X amount, we'll just give you an unlimited line. And then before you know it, it's like, hey, we need this. And then you're looking at the interest charges. You're like, what in the heck is going on?
Yep. My first year in business, when I started driving truck for myself, I opened up a credit card line, and right away they approved me for like $25,000.
Yeah, it's like a brand new business. Like, why is this? This is predatory here.
Yeah. So that's something that I really learned, and my life is simpler, and I make more money when I follow those principles.
That sounds like winning.
Yeah. And when you're not paying payments, you can save up more money then too, obviously, because your money's not going out in payments. And then if you take on debt to grow your infrastructure before you have your customers set up,
yes,
before you're ready for that infrastructure, that's what can sink companies.
Yes.
So that's why when you save up and then finally make the investment into bigger infrastructure, your business can support that bigger infrastructure.
Exactly. I see this especially in the wash space, because I know you've kind of removed yourself a little bit, but with all these like YouTube gurus and everybody's like, oh, finance this rig or lease this rig for $30,000. These people don't even have any business yet. And they've been kind of brainwashed due to like the pressure washing industrial complex, where like it's like, yeah, just if you buy this, you'll be able to pay it off easy because this is just cash flows in these businesses.
Yeah, because you can make $400 an hour with this 10-gallon a minute machine.
Exactly. And then there's no customer base.
But wait, you're making $0 an hour because that machine's sitting in your driveway not working.
Exactly. I know, like, I leveraged a little bit of debt when I grew from like owner operator getting off the truck, because I was like, hey, I want to make a jump. And I think we went from like $170,000 solo to like $360,000 with 2 trucks. But I had to take on debt to kind of expand with skids, wraps, trucks. And then like the cash flow of having employees, people kind of overlook, like, man, it seems like whenever you're paying out, it's like, the money coming in. It seems like it's slower to catch up with all that money going out when you got everything, filling up trucks with gas, getting bleach, replacing stuff. You're like, man, like you're doing $40,000-$50,000 months, and you're like, there's so much money going up and down. In the beginning, you're kind of just like behind the whole time, and that's a lesson where I'm like catching up on debt and like kind of zeroing myself back out again as I was before I took on debt to expand.
Yeah,
so I feel you there.
I know. Yeah, I know that exact feeling. I felt, especially in our busy months when I had, 3 employees, and we were, it was April, May, June. So you're crushing it in pressure washing and stuff like that. I felt that all I was doing was paying my vendors and my employees.
Yeah.
I was paying my marketing guy. I was paying the bank for, all the loans we had. I was paying the employee's salary, paying the bleach dealer, the maintenance guy fixing, the garage, fixing my trucks. Like all I was doing was paying my vendors.
Yep.
It's so easy. And I know a lot of people call that slippage in business. When you have a lot of money coming in like that, it's so easy for it just to slip away.
Yeah, it's true. You it's like strong revenue can make you slip away all your profitability, and your expenses kind of, I guess it almost creeps as well. Cause you're like, oh, I don't have to be as like on it because look at how much money we have rolling in every week.
We were making $40,000 this month.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I know in like our peak month in May last month, we did like 70 something grand. So you're like, who needs to keep track when you know like every day we're getting like $3,000 or $4,000 worth of combined billables from 2 trucks. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, oh man, I've incurred this spending habit based upon that cash flow that I need to like really taper off, because when the end of the year hits and then there's no money coming in, there's still money flowing out. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like creating like a matrix or like a pro forma of like cash flows, just so you're not getting super confident in the busy seasons, and then fall comes, it slows down a little bit, and then you're not losing as much, but you're never going to be able to catch back up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the empire building trap of like, hey, look, I want to hit X number to be this. And then you're like you said, you're like, hey, I'm busy. I feel productive and successful. My Google ratings are going up and like my revenues are going up, but my profitability isn't necessarily following that same like increased trajectory as you would think.
Yeah. I'm pretty goal oriented, and I know it's easy to be goal oriented when you're empire building too, but like, yeah, that's another reason why I tell people like sit down, for days if it takes days, but think about what you truly want out of your business. Think about what you truly want out of your business and how you want it to grow, how you want it to either control your life or you control it, and build it around that. That's, like I said, that's been one of the things that I've been really focusing on recently, and it's helped me bring some success.
So where did this influence come from? Are you listening to somebody, or did you read certain books, or is it just like come to you through like discernment of like, okay, I went through this storm. Now that like the skies have cleared, this is what I want?
A lot of that. Yeah. A lot of that. I would say a lot of like just self-reflection.
Yeah.
Self-reflection, reflecting with my wife, talking with my spouse about it. That's huge.
I think that's very overlooked too, because like when people empire build, they think, oh, I have to be the provider, and like they're not using their spouse as like a mentor.
Exactly. Your spouse is a mentor. Like if you trust and love your spouse enough to marry them
and have babies,
marry them and have babies, then you should trust their judgment. Even if they don't know anything about business.
Yes.
You should at least trust their judgment, because you trusted them enough to marry them and have kids with them.
Yes.
So you should be talking about business and life decisions with them and planning and goals. Katie and I had an impromptu goal planning day where we just like almost storyboarded.
That's cool.
Earlier this year, it was like the second, January 2nd or something like that. Yeah. And I was like, it's so cliche, but we should storyboard and try to plan some goals and, refocus, make sure we're aligned with where we want to go. I'm a Christian, so I'll say praying about it helped too.
Yep.
Praying about it, whether you hear the voice of God or not, I firmly believe that praying about it, voicing your concerns, like actually, manifesting it, like that can help as well.
Yeah.
Regardless of you hear the voice of God directing you a certain way. So definitely praying about it. Talking to a couple, if you have a, few good mentors. Yeah. And I have a couple good mentors. One's a business mentor. He's a good friend. Another one is, a mentor in my church who I look up to. He's still a W-2, or he is a W-2 employee. So I don't exactly want his his input on that kind of stuff, but his life decisions, his Christian decisions, like I could see myself, living my life the way he does as far as, Christianity and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's like that value driven life. And then like the money kind of takes care of itself. But like, if you're not living on your values and you're not authentic with yourself by like chasing this dream of whatever empire somebody painted a picture in our head of, like usually that's just going to cause burnout and stress. And like you're saying, a lot of these people you see that are like pushing this narrative of like, oh, look, I'm the biggest, baddest guy in the world. Like it's a house of cards. Mm-hmm. You look into it and you're like, oh, well, their family was rich or like this or that, or sometimes they're just living on debt until the debt catches up to them and they just go bankrupt or they disappear or they get divorced. Mm-hmm. So like to me is like life is way too short to deal with that kind of nonsense.
Yeah.
It's like people like run into entrepreneurship to escape like being in a rat race and a trap of a corporation who's dictating all this, yet they build businesses that kind of put them in their own kind of prison and trap. Mm-hmm. So like, I think like the ability to like know what your clear vision is and your goal and go about it the correct way and find peace through it. Cause like you said, if you're like listening to the voice of God or like you're having peace in doing something, whereas like when you're doing this over here, you didn't have peace. You're more in like correct alignment with the direction you need to be going in. Mm-hmm. And then like you said, like money catches up to that.
Yes. I've found like what you just said, I found that when you do align with the direction you truly want to go,
yes,
the money comes.
Yes, you're not forcing it.
Doesn't really come. It doesn't come fast.
Yeah,
it does. Sometimes, I guess, if you're lucky, it does. It doesn't come fast, but the money comes.
Yeah.
For instance, this is normally the slow season, even in the home improvement realm. This is the slow season, and this is the first winter I've had where I'm not super worried about work. I had work up until I decided to take off for Christmas. We finished a job, I think 2 or 3 days before Christmas, a major porch renovation. And I took 3 weeks off for Christmas. Again, nice thing about being a business owner.
Yep.
And I'm starting a basement remodel tomorrow.
Very nice.
That'll keep me busy for about, I would say 2 to 3 weeks. And then after that, we have, I think, at least one small remodel after that. So this is the first winter after, like I said, resetting, realigning with my goals. It's just started working out better. I don't know how to put it. Call it God, call it luck, call it hard work finally paying off.
Yep. It's like getting out of our own ways. Like it's easy. In my opinion. Yeah, it's easy to be like hard-headed and say, I'm going to force this, but sometimes that's not the right path. Mm-hmm. And then oftentimes if you're just allowing that path to happen, it'll naturally pan out. And it's like, I know like with me, like Ashley is like a good beacon and she's like, hey, this is not working. Do this over here. It's like, and like we're saying, like our wives are smart enough to like know us and to know what's right for us and to be able to say, I don't know what you're doing in this business, but this isn't right. And then they give you that helpful nudge of like, hey, this comes from a place of love. I'm not trying to be controlling. And then they like give us eyesight. They give us like a vision that we don't see because we're so fixated, like goal-oriented guys that sometimes it takes somebody as an outsider who cares about us and is in our corner and has like no ego in the game to be like, why don't we do something different? And that's kind of like the value I see of having like a spouse who's like truly on your side. It's like, I don't really care like what you do. Like that's your game. But I think whatever you're doing is not working because it's not making you happy or it's not aligning the correct thing with you. So I think that's like a superpower that it's really cool to have somebody in your corner like that.
Yeah. It's an underestimated superpower.
Yeah. Like everybody wants to wear the badge of honor. Like I see it in this like red pill man movement where everybody's like, oh, like, I was like, your wife should like, you should listen to her. Like you don't need to be like, I'm the provider. I tell her what to do. It's like, no, you shouldn't. You should view it like more as a partnership. Yeah.
And that's exactly what it is. Yeah. But I wanted some other things, as we talked about. I'm looking here on some notes that I wrote.
Yeah.
Um, Yes, some other things I wanted to say. Uh, Brand and marketing strategies. Um, I could go on and on for hours about that.
Right.
I will say, I know this is cliche because a lot of people say it. The best thing that has worked out for me is just to do good work and be good and be a good person.
Yeah.
Um, that has, and that like pay attention to the work you're doing, make sure it's high quality. Because most contractors out there, whether you're in the pressure washing realm or window cleaning, gutter cleaning, home improvement, real estate, there's too many contractors out there that aren't doing high quality.
Yes.
So, and another thing that, my business mentor has told me, he said, really all you need to do to beat the competition is pick up the phone, get quotes out quickly, and be a nice guy and do good work.
Yep.
That's all you got to do. That's the secret sauce right there.
Yep. That seems like it. And then don't try to be like quick overnight. Because I see people trying to be quick overnight. And by doing so, they're sabotaging exactly what you talked about. Like caring, showing up, doing the best you can do.
Yeah. So like as far as me with my branding and marketing strategies, I'm on Facebook and I love Facebook Lives. I go live at least once per job. So depending on how big the job is, but at least once per job, telling people about what I do. I have found decent success with Facebook Lives, and I'll put it. I don't know if this is the reason, but this is the reason that I believe, because Facebook is so detached from reality. It's a highlight reel. It is not what's actually happening in reality.
Yes.
So people love watching live videos because it's an actual dose of reality. It's not hiding behind a highlight reel.
Yes.
So I get crazy good engagement and a lot of views on my lives, and all I'm doing is telling people, being at the job site, saying I demoed these stairs and I'm rebuilding them up to code. Right, here's the code. Here's how I'm building them to code. Here's why they'll last for years to come. Or this was a rotten beam that could have caused this whole porch to fall down, and this is what we did: tore it out, built the shoring wall, tore it out, rebuilt the beam, flashed it with aluminum, made it look pretty. So in my opinion, boring live videos talking about, fixing things.
Yeah.
But I get crazy good engagement on it. And people just reach out to me that, hey, I saw your live video. Can you quote me for new steps? Yeah,
that's cool.
I sure can. And as far as like I said, doing high quality work, then customer care afterwards, making sure they're happy with the job, showing up on time, cleaning up after yourself. And then I always try to send a thank you card afterwards.
And you always do like handwritten cards too, don't you?
Yeah, dude, I love handwritten thank you cards.
Yeah.
I love handwritten thank you cards. I've gotten so much positive feedback from my handwritten thank you cards. And it's just like stuff I'll do after my kids go to bed. I have a whole little box with Amazon special thank you cards and, templates for each thing. And I'll just I'll wait until I have like 5 or 6 of them to write out, 5, 6, 8, whatever, in an evening after my kids go to bed, and mail them out. And
yeah,
I want to say I always, and I'm pretty sure about this, I always get referrals from that. And I gain customer loyalty. So when they need me again for another project, they call me. So like I said, marketing branding strategies, it's nothing fancy. It's not an SEO'd out. It's not an SEO'd out website. It's not crazy amounts of Google reviews. Not saying those are bad. Those are great. Those are definitely great. I highly recommend them.
Yeah.
For me though, it's just been consistently posting on Facebook, going live, doing good work, and thank you cards.
Yeah. Hey, it's humanity though. You're keeping it like it's not fake. And I think a lot of times, like you were talking about, people, it's to get quick fix. Like, hey, if I throw money in these ads on these like super edited reels, people are going to think that I'm some like big baddie. In reality, I think people are so blind and annoyed by that if you're putting out something that's like, hey, this is simple. This is how times used to be. Like I'm going to have a live on there, me working for 30 minutes, just being my authentic self. And then I'm going to write a handwritten card. That's like, whoa, this is of a different era.
Yeah. And just like I said, being genuine like that.
Yeah.
When I had my rentals, one of the things we always did was we deliver Christmas presents to the tenants.
That's cool.
So each tenant would get a $50 Visa gift card and a tin of Christmas cookies.
Nice.
And that always, obviously, it always, I mean, anytime you give people free money, that goes over well.
Yeah.
But then throughout the year, if like rent was late or something,
mm-hmm.
I could be, I don't want to say a dickhead, but I could be a more difficult individual, and the tenant wouldn't really hold it against me.
Right.
You know,
because they see that you
like,
care about them.
Yeah, this guy's, you know, he's still a genuine, decent guy, you know, and he just really wants the rent money because he needs the rent money because that's how, you know, this game is played.
Yeah.
So, like I said, just being decent, being genuine like that has helped me not just in, you know, a handyman home improvement contractor. I've been doing that since we own rentals, and no matter which way I do it in, whether it be gifts or handwritten thank you cards, it's always blessed me.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, is there a specific thing you've done that's your favorite, whether it be like marketing, or I guess I've always seen you do Christmas cards that are handwritten. Is there a specific card, or is mainly just like the concept of like reaching out and saying like, hey, I appreciate business, like something simple as.
Yeah, honestly, it's really just a simple thank you card. I buy these ones off of Amazon that are blue and they have a big thank you across them. And then I write the little note in there. I tell the people, you know, I make it specific to them. So I say, I want to thank you for hiring me for your porch repair project.
There you go.
It means a lot to me that you chose to support my small business. And I mean, that it means a lot to me that you chose to support my small business for this project. If you have any other home improvement projects in the future, I would love to be an asset for you and help you out with those projects. You know, yours truly, you know, your handyman, Thomas. And then at the bottom, I was like, P.S. If you loved my work, I would love a review on Facebook or Google.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, yeah, honestly, that's my favorite thing. I love it. It's simple. A stamp costs 55 cents.
Yep.
And I can guarantee you I've done over 6 figures of work strictly from recurring work because people love me from the thank you cards, or referrals that people who received thank you cards gave out to their friends.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that's a good idea that I may try to implement in my business. Just everything's so automated and like by separate, like, yeah, like they get the text, the email follow up and this and that. But when you get a handwritten letter in your mail, that's like, oh, that's different.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't tell you the last time I got a handwritten letter.
Yeah, me either.
Oh, no, yeah, exactly.
It's like I can EDM people to death, but they don't care. They just put it right in the trash. Like if it was handwritten, I'd open it and read it and say, oh, that took somebody's time. Yeah.
My first year pressure washing full time. You know, I did pressure wash the house and their back Trex deck and did a window cleaning. It was like $1,000 job. Sent them a thank you card. And then, winter rolled around. I was out of money. I was out of money and needed some Christmas light jobs, and just reached out to a couple of my clients and said, hey, you know, we're doing Christmas lights. Let me know if you need anything, you know, Christmas light designs, stuff like that. And I remember the lady specifically said to me, I called you back because I loved your thank you card. I loved that sentiment. Cool. I want you to do a Christmas light design on our house. That's cool. And then I sold her a $5,000 Christmas light install.
There you go.
Yeah.
Like $6,000 right there just because you took the time to write somebody a letter.
Yeah, exactly. And then every year after that, and she still, I mean, I sold that business, but she still gets, now she even added more lights to it. So now she gets like a $6,000 Christmas light, $6,000 or $7,000 Christmas light install every single year.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah. That may be one of the things I implement, because like, especially in the pressure washing scene where we are, everybody's like doing the exact same thing with the digital marketing, with the wrap trucks, with the Facebook ads. So you're just racing against everybody else. And we're like, if I'm spending X on Google, you're spending X on Google, like nothing's differentiating ourselves. So like maybe bringing back something hand touch, handwritten, and just say, hey, an office day, I'm going to go through all my customers for the last year or so. And then we're going to, and then I'm just going to send them out, and it'll be good. Sorry, I kicked off the video there, but something just to remind people.
Yeah, and I understand that may not be the best for a scaled up business, you know.
Yeah.
If you're doing 5, 8 jobs a day, that's a whole lot of cards to handwrite.
Yeah. We're doing like 100 jobs a month.
Yeah, that's a lot of cards. I would say, I know there's companies out there.
Maybe like cherry pick like good customers.
Cherry pick good customers, profitable jobs, customers you want to go back. But I know there's like companies out there like Building Raving Fans, and other ones that integrate with your CRM and you automatically send thank you cards and stuff like that, which is great. I guess, like I said, when I'm talking about this, I'm talking to the small business owner starting up, or 2 years in business. Stuff like that.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, everything though can be carried into different sized businesses. Yeah, I wouldn't be like Coca-Cola and then do certain things like this, but I mean, it's sending somebody a handwritten card who's a decision maker, or like a property management company, that could lead to relationship built work where like, hey, this one client gives us $50,000 of work. That's worth it for any size business.
Yeah.
So like, you don't necessarily have to like write a handwritten letter to every little pressure washing job you may do. It's like, it's a good kind of a strategic approach that most people, when they're listening to a podcast on marketing and branding, it's not the sleekest, sexiest tech thing that they can do. So it's kind of a good like reverse Uno to what people think.
Yeah.
But
anyway, what's the next section we want to talk about?
Hey, I think you covered a lot. Whatever you'd want to mention, or like, is there something that you would want to say to yourself like 10 years ago, or like when you first started out? Like, what's one piece of advice and wisdom that you know that you have today that would have saved you like heartache or headaches or like a lot of time in the past?
I would say be consistent. Be disciplined and be consistent. That was stuff I struggled with and still occasionally struggle with. Be consistent, that if I would have stayed consistent, that would have helped me a lot. And stay focused on your goals. Like I said, I think that would have helped me a lot too, where I wouldn't have gone so empire building and, gone off in a different direction. Stay focused on your goals. And your goals can change, and that's all right too. But discuss your goals with your spouse, with a trusted mentor, and stay focused on them. Like I said, our goals now don't include anything about scaling my business. We have zero interest in scaling my home improvement business. I thoroughly enjoy being a highly paid technician on site.
There you go.
Stress levels are down, profits are up. And what we plan on scaling is our rental property portfolio. So cool. We went back to focusing on that goal, our original goal, years ago, of building a rental property portfolio. And niched it down into like what type of properties. Like right now, I'm looking for ranch houses that are 30 to 45 minutes outside of a major city.
That's cool.
I live in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So I want ranch houses around me. I don't want multifamily houses like I used to have, but something like that needs work. Those are my preferred type of rental properties.
Yeah.
And buy them, put a 10-year note on them so you don't make much cash flow at all. But they get paid off quickly.
Yeah, which it seems like it's probably a wise thing to do, because if you're like getting a ton of cash flow and you're stretching everything out for 30 something years, you're going to pay too much for these homes versus like hustle for a little bit and then everything's taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you got my dog in the background. He's like, Dad, let me have to pee.
But yeah, like I said, looking back, 10 years ago, things I would say would be, get good at something. Like I said, be detail oriented. Focus, like I said earlier, focus on doing good work, being genuine, getting back to people, stay consistent, and focus on your goals.
Yeah. That's kind of a realization I've been making as well. It's like we want to hustle, improve ourselves. And then when we get to a point in business where we're like, hey, I've hit the number I want to hit, and that's not what I really want. It's like backtracking a little bit and getting that clarity. Mm-hmm. It's like I'm not trying to really scale too much as I'm trying to like kind of cut the noise out and really like focus on profitability and like simplicity.
Yeah.
So
especially as a family man too, like,
yeah.
Well, you have little banks.
Yeah, little banks.
I have 3 little girls. Like, yeah, simplicity is great because that gives me the mental space to be the engaged and present father that I need to be.
I think that is the ultimate goal, especially when you have kids. And that's like the realization I have, because it's like Banks doesn't care if I make all this money and I don't have time to be with him. And I'm not making those memories for myself as well. Like I was talking the other day to Ashley, it's like the nonsense of these people who are like, your kid doesn't remember anything like until they're X amount of like years old. And I'm like, that's bull crap. First off. And like, it's just like that toxic drive of like, build your empire. It's like, what are you going to just throw money at your family to keep them happy? Cause like, there's no relationship that's been built. So,
no, and they may not remember, earlier than 5 years old.
Yeah.
But if you distance yourself from your child from 0 to 5, you're not going to have that good foundation of relationship built with them.
Exactly.
For the times they will.
Exactly.
And also you're depriving yourself of all these memories. Like, my kids right now, 5, 3, and 1.
Yeah.
They won't remember most of what we're doing right now. Right. But I'm going to.
Right. It's like the focus should be on that.
Every single one of those moments.
Yeah. The focus is like the most important thing you can possibly build on this planet is your family. But like, why are we going to focus more on building a business that is just a means to pay the bills? That to me, it almost is a form of like escapism from reality to some people. So I think a lot of us, like normal, you get like discernment, you have like a relationship with God, and you're like, I'm getting peace and I'm pulling myself back into like what I truly want and what's good for me and my family. So, but that's about all I have. I know my video camera adapter gets a little finicky here and there.
That's all right. No, I think we covered a fair amount. Hopefully it was solid information for you and some of your listeners.
I think so too. And it's cool because I was going through like the same podcast platform that I host all these to as we did the Wash Bros. And I mean, the Wash Bros, we had like 2,700 downloads on that. And like after us stopping it, we had like 1,000 people listen to the show. So like you put it out there and then some people stumble upon it and be like, I'm just going to randomly listen to these people. And they're like, oh, that one guy had a cool story of like, if like, I think too, like something like this, where it's like, this is a life lesson of like alignment. That's more important than like a piece of marketing tip to grow $10,000 in revenue. It's like somebody's listened to it and they're like, I don't feel like I need to be doing this. And then they'll listen to a show like this. And his 2 guys are like, hey, we've been there, done that. It's not necessarily the right path for us. It may like open somebody else's eyes so they're not just like figuring out themselves.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I thought it was good. Appreciate catching up.
It was good chatting with you. It's always good chatting with you, Matt.
Yeah, man. No doubt. I will I'll hit the outro button and I'll do a little outro, and then I'll end the recording. But I appreciate it.
Sounds good.
Yeah, man.
Sounds good.
I'll see you. Bye.
Night.